by Andrew Harvey and Ann Baring, The Mystic Vision, Daily Encounters with the Divine. And I just love these meditations. And I love the introductions. And this introduction by Andrew is just spectacular. And I think that it was written long before the political environment we're in right now, but it could have been written for this environment. So I will share it briefly. Adoration, contemplation, prayer. There is a worldwide famine of adoration, and we are all visibly dying in it. Desolation, nihilism, meaningless, tragic and brutal carelessness and perversity we see all around us and in us is a direct result of living in a spiritual concentration camp in which we are all starved and have starved ourselves of just that food our hearts, minds, and souls need most. The food of worship, of love, gratitude, praise, the bread and the wine of adoration. We have forgotten how to renew ourselves in the fire and the light of the simple divine glory of life itself, and forgotten how to know that joy and light in us and around us that initiates and heals all who realize them and gives sacred fire to all true action. Adoration is not some fervent spiritual or poetic exercise reserved for a chosen few. Adoration is nothing less than the oxygen of survival, the way itself to that illumination that alone can give us either the knowledge or the courage to save ourselves and nature now. Adoration is both the way home and home itself, the sign and the seal of true knowledge and the path to it, the radiant summit of the mountain of God, and the force that gives the passion, the heart, the energy to scale it. And the way of adoration is silence, contemplation, and prayer. And I would add that the way of adoration is creation-centered spirituality. And that is what we're all about, to create that interruption to the interruption, and to bring about that the realization of the blessedness of all things and all beings and the earth itself. Amen. Again, that book is called The Mystic Vision. Very, very, just a lovely book. So, welcome everyone. I'm Sid Hall, and go ahead. Did someone say something? I just want to make sure we're good. I'm Sid, and I am the president of CSC this year, and I'm happy to be in that role. And the first thing I have on the agenda after the meditation is to meet our board members. So if the board members could chime in that are here and just say your name and maybe where you're from and whatever you want to say briefly. We'll start with whomever.
This is Joran. I am here in St. Petersburg, Florida. New to the board this year, and was just clicking over to Amazon to order my copy of The Mystic Vision. Thank you, Sid, for that. Glad to be here tonight, and I love seeing everyone's faces. It's great to see you all. Great to be here.
I'm Seth. I'm currently residing in Carlsbad, California, which is near San Diego. And I'm also the editor of the newsletter, and I do the accounting and membership admin, among other things.
Well, I'm Mel Bricker. I reside in the adult summer camp for people over 55. in Rossmore, California. Well, actually, Walnut Creek, California, Rossmore Community Center, which is a lively place and which we enjoy very much. One of the main things I've done is been a board member of the Fox Institute for Creation Spirituality, which has been on a long pause. There have been many, many items that had to be taken care of in dealing with what was left after the pause began. And when you have no staff to do it, it takes a long time to get it all done. Simple things like disposing of furniture and a whole lot of things. But anyway, we've had some really good discussions lately with a fellow who's helped out a lot in kind of helping us make some progress in our thinking. We have 3 students. We just had an academic meeting with one of them who's working on her Doctor of Ministry. She's doing really well. So we're continuing partly for those purpose of those things. And probably after the first of the year, we'll have a retreat to get together with the students as well as with the board and a resource person and do some real visioning for the future.
Great. Thanks, Mel.
Well, I'm Carolyn. I'm currently on the board since 2017, and I was trying to find my copy of Ann Baring and Andrew Harvey's Mystic Visions because I just got it in Amazon like 2 days ago. But it's actually already at my bedside, so I'm not able to show you that I've actually already started. So thank you for sharing that. I think it looks like a great share. I'm a secretary mostly because I have 0 skills in the same venue as all my compadres.
Not true.
So, and even then, I'm sure they could argue that there are some challenges I harbor in the field of being secretary. But I'm also very interested in development of small group and trying to help people connect when there's just 2, 3, 4, 5 people around. How can we help those people connect? So I have a special interest in that. And so anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. Oh, and I live in Alameda, California, and I go to Rossmore 2 or 3 times a month to share at this Center for Spiritual Cultivation. I was there this morning at Rossmore. It was beautiful. It's just a heavenly place. You're so lucky, Mel.
Dave, are you there?
Okay, I had to figure it out and unmute. Usually I'm always talking and loud, so I never muted before. My name's Dave Summers, and I currently live in Carlsbad, California, and a graduate of, got a DMid. And I am the treasurer of this group, and I've been on since after the Berkeley conference. I joined that fall. So it's an exciting group, and we have a lot of exciting projects going on. I do have a few minutes for a treasurer's report if you want it, but we'll see how time goes. We're doing okay.
And last but not least, at least of the current board, is me, Sid, Paul, and I think I've been on at the same, I came on the same time as you, Dave, right after the Berkeley conference.
Yeah.
And I live in Austin, Texas, and I've been part of a CSC community since the early 90s. Well, I've been the pastor at Trinity Church of Austin since the late 80s, but we've been actively participating in CSC events and activities and theology since the early 90s. So this is just a joy to be connected with all of you and with this board and the work we're trying to do together. The urgency is I think just as great as it was when Matt began writing and talking about the urgency. And so thank you all for being here today. So now that we've sort of introduced the board, let me go back to my agenda. We want to thank, and Judy Shook is on our board too. She has just moved from Northern California to the Asheville area and is an ordained Methodist clergy. So she's serving 2 churches that are really kicking her butt right now. And she just got there and she's working hard. And she's had to miss some meetings since then. And so we're thinking about her. She really is working real hard to keep those things afloat. But you all know her from Berkeley and Asheville, and she's quite the amazing person. So we want to thank two people especially who circulated off the board. And I want to personally just say it, and I know that all of you will agree with me. Gail Ransom and Roxanne Whitelight are two absolutely amazing people. Gail basically was the non-paid staff person during the time that she was the board chair. And I really don't think that CSC would be here today had it not been for her incredible commitment and tenacity. She is absolutely amazing. And in spite of a very busy life, in spite of moving and a new grandchild, her brain is still firing off multiple ideas. And so I am so thankful that she's here, and we're going to hear from her in just a moment. And then Roxanne, who has been such an incredibly wise leader for us in the area of, in multiple areas, but she's been on the board. She's been that kind of person that wraps around after we've talked about everything and says, well, you know, look, we need to think about this and this and this and this. And she's always right on. And but because of her commitment to her dear wife, who is struggling with health issues, she's had to step away from the board a little early. But as said, she still is fully in it. And we're thankful for you, Roxanne. You are a true blessing. So I want to let you both just say hi for a moment, and then we'll go back around and hear from everyone. Gail, you're on mute.
No. Hi. Oh, I don't know what to say, but I don't know how I did that because I can't get anything done now and I'm not doing it anymore. So I don't know. I have no idea how that went, but I guess the universe was just making it happen. So now I'm a grandmother. I'm just blown away with this little girl. She's almost 3 months. I'll see her on Thursday. And how to see her come into the world all full of creation and brightness and purity. It's a powerful experience for me. And so I am I'm really enjoying that. And I'm just traveling a lot because I'm here and then I'm there and then sometimes I'm other places, and I basically am home for like 10 days and then I'm gone again. So that's what I'm doing right now. I get settled in and get my rhythm back, and then 4 days later I leave. I think I can do this maybe 5 more months and then I can't.
Crazy.
Yeah, but it's for a wonderful reason. So and I'm doing the comments for, well, actually this is what I'm doing. This takes a long time. This takes like sometimes 2 hours a day to I'm doing the comments for Matthew's daily meditations. So when people write back and they have questions or comments, then I say something back to them. And it's really good for me. It's really making me grow because I have to know what Matthew's saying, and then I have to kind of find a way to say it. And so that's been good. And then you'll hear about our other project in a little bit.
Great, thank you. Roxanne, and tell us how Ruth is doing.
Everybody, it's great to see you again. Welcome, Tom. It's so nice.
We can't hear you very well, Roxanne.
It's so nice to see Tom and John also and Penny joining us. Can you hear better now?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you. Thanks everybody for being here. I still have the board meetings on my calendar on Monday, so I sit down and say a prayer for all of you while you're meeting, and think about all of you. The last Wednesday, we got some good news. My wife has been having weekly chemotherapy since April, and we really just have not had any date, you know, that might be the end in sight, the end of the tunnel. But on last Wednesday, they said that she could stop treatment on December 18th. So that's the best Christmas present that we could have. So that's nice. And I live in Maui. And what I've been doing since I got off the board, it was really interesting how these things dovetailed with each other. But a few of my contacts at the UCC church have been asking me to do pulpit supply. So all of a sudden I find myself back in a pulpit every week at a different place. And I'm noticing the joy of pulpit supply in that you don't have to go to any meetings. You get the rigor of sitting down and writing a message, you know, a heartfelt message. And, you know, it's like you can be a little bit radical and not have to worry who's going to call you the next Monday or Tuesday to say you were not walking the Christian party line. So today I totally reframed Jesus' words that Luke has him saying from the cross about, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing, to really Jesus asking God for help. It's not, God doesn't need to forgive them. That's already done. It's really Jesus saying from the cross, God, help me to forgive all these people who are killing me because I know they don't know what they're doing. So I had a good time writing that message and thinking about it kind of in a reverse way. So, but that's been keeping me busy. And I've been facilitating some meetings with the Hawaii conference of the UCC. So all that time that was freed up from the board meetings and other things is now, like Gail, magically getting filled up with other things. So I'm so grateful that Ruth gets to take a break from treatment. And I'm so grateful to see all of you again. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Before we sort of talk about what we're doing and what we are planning on doing, we have one item of business that, and that is to elect new officers. And we have two people. We've gone round and around and talked about different people and how to diversify the board and younger people, all those kinds of things that you can imagine. We've talked about, but we have two people that at this time in their journey have agreed to do this if it's in the consensus of this group. And so if you got your email, if you could glance at it, if you have not had a chance, and just read over for just a moment, the two biographies of Deidre Combs and Jerry Maynard, two very different people with incredible gifts that we think will be so helpful to the board. And so I'm going to let you just look at that for a moment. And while we're looking, if any of you know these two people and have had a chance to visit with them in any capacity, if you could chime in, that would be helpful beyond the bios that we have here.
Well, I'm the one who talked with Deidre Combs about the possibility of being nominated to the board as a member, and have known Deidre since our time at the University of Creation Spirituality. She's really a very energetic person. My goodness, she just keeps going on after all of these years of the kind of work that she does. Really a highly skilled organizational development person. As you know, she's written several books that she's listed there. And just a person with a big heart and a big desire to now be on the board. We've thought about her many times, but this is a time in her life when she could be able to do that. And she brings a lot of good connections with her.
Great. Thank you, Mel.
That is an absolute coup that she has finally said yes. She is fabulous. Yeah. I also know Jerry. I've known him through Joran, and Jerry is boy, is he creative and innovative. He says his church, the People's Church, meets online and in the streets. So he's doing things so differently. He talks about people that go down to marry people on the border so that they can, immigrants can stay. That kind of work. And now he's working with Matt also on the meditations. And I thought he's going to be the bishop of the American Catholic Church or something. So he's young. He's really young. So and fresh thinking. So I think he will bring all those connections and a new way of thinking to the board.
And I'll add one of the things that he told me that really stuck out to me is that he believes that justice is the final result of anything spiritual, and that's the true test to know if it's where you want to spend your time and your energy. Does it lead to justice? If it doesn't, don't waste your time on it. That's my sort of interpretation of what drives him. But he's really passionate about that. I also was impressed that he's deeply rooted in the Christian tradition, but he's also very, very cognizant of deep ecumenism and promotes that. If you look on his website, you'll see pictures of him with the Starhawk and various other people, and that's always a big plus in my book when I see someone with Starhawk. So anyway. Any other people?
I would just echo what Mel said about Deirdre being with her at UCS, and she was just a wonderful addition to the UCS group. So I would definitely second her nomination.
Thank you, Roxanne. I see Tom. Hey, Tom.
Hey, I was just trying to unmute me there. I don't have anything more to add about Deirdre other than what everybody said, and I totally agree with them.
Awesome. Thank you. Great to see you. Well, I think that since the two of them are not even in this meeting, we don't have to ask them to go away from the Zoom at this moment. Is there a sense of consensus, or can we do that rather than vote? I would prefer that if we can. All in favor, just raise your hands. I think that's an affirmation. Yay! Thank you. All right, that item of business is completed. And now we're going to do sort of a round robin of what's been going on with the with CSC board over the last year, and what we've done, what we're working on, what we hope for the future. And I think we'll just go around in, if it's okay, in the order that people are listed, which puts Mel on the spot to start. And whatever is said, then the next person that may have brought that up, we can just skip that. So we don't want to spend everyone's time. Does that sound good?
Good.
Mel?
Well, I've already made mine in my introduction. I didn't realize that I was going to have an opportunity to do that. So in terms of talking about the Fox Institute for Creation Spirituality, my own feelings about it have gone all many different directions. And we're kind of gathering together, and that's why I'm looking forward to the retreat. I'd also like to say that Carolyn mentioned the Creation Spirituality community, which began here in Rossmore, and she had a great deal to do with helping to get that going. So I want to give her appreciation for that.
Great. Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
And I will chime in about the, I mean, I can talk about many things, but I think I'll focus on my time on the CSC retreats. We began that sort of idea in Berkeley. And before it was all over, we had a lot of us on the board and people outside of the board really helping. I think that initial retreat had Seth and Gail and Paula and Judy and me. And before it was over, we had eventually Roxanne contributed significantly. Every member of the board really had a lot to say in creating a template. And our sort of vision was to do something like is done in Cursillo and Emmaus, sort of what I would call the religious versions of Est. That's just my own shorthand. But something that really promoted creation-centered spirituality, that would be a retreat that could be done in local areas and not wait for a gathering, where it could be a refresher course for those who already were familiar with creation spirituality, but it could be an introduction for those who were just being introduced. And some of the idea is that those people that are in existing communities can strengthen what they're already doing. And for those people that, and this is the case, unfortunately, for many who are on our mailing list, they're very isolated. They're in areas where there's nothing else going on. There are no communities. There are no small groups. And so this is a way for them to get plugged in and go to retreat and find like-minded people to connect with. And our hope is that it would sort of like the groups that base communities out of Central American liberation theology that emerged from the ground up and swelled, that this would provide a way for that to happen. So we've had several of them, and we have some that are in the works for the future. And if any of you would like to be a part of that, participate in that, have one come to your area, let us know, because we've got a basic template that can be adapted to the local area, but it's off and running, and we're very excited about it. So I think I'll stop there, and we'll go to, I think who's next? It's Seth.
Okay. Well, one of Gail's parting gifts was helping us get a whole new website. So that's up and running and quite lovely. There's still more. There's a whole section we want to do to have that's just for resources for members, which hasn't gotten set up yet, but that's one big thing. What else? We still have money in the bank, so that's really good. And I found a way, it's going to take a little bit to get there, but currently we use QuickBooks and we are just using their commercial product. And I got us signed up for TechSoup. And if we switch over to getting QuickBooks through them, it will cost us for 1 year what we're currently paying for 1 month. So I'm now waiting for them. They only have so many that come up, and it's out of stock now, but they say at the end of the month or the beginning of December, we should be able to sign up for that. So that will be a really good thing because, right now we're just spending and not bringing in very much. So every place that we can save money is a very good thing.
Seth, would you say a bit about the survey? Because you worked so hard on that and you have knowledge of it. I think that I know
Do I remember anything?
Talk about it.
Do I remember anything?
Yes, you do.
Let's see. Well, I would say the two biggest things from it. One is it was very, very clear that if you look at the people on this call, we are the demographics of our organization. Old white Christian people, basically. And so that was, it was good to see it sort of there in black and white and blue and orange, and to get that that's really something that we need to work on. And then the other thing, I think the biggest thing that came out of it in terms of what people want is they want to create small groups and get supported in creating groups in their local areas and being connected locally and stuff like that. So yeah, that came out really clearly.
Connection.
Yeah. So, and that's why, the biggest things we're thinking about are the small groups, the intensive that Sid just talked about, and potential for doing another gathering next year. So
that's right.
And there was something else I was going to say something about, and I can't remember what. Oh well, it could. Oh, the newsletter. The newsletter is going quite well. I have to say, it is amazing to me that every other month I send out this email and say, okay, here's what I think the theme should be for this month. You guys send me stuff. And I have people that literally within like an hour send me things. And I'm like, are they just like sitting around with creativity spewing out of them that they're waiting to send? It seems like they are, and we all get to benefit. So that's been, it takes a lot of work, but it's quite a joy. And just the stuff that people contribute has just been amazing. So.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Carolyn.
Well, my primary focus, other than being secretary and trying to align myself with the universe in terms of technological skills, which has been quite difficult for me because I am not someone known for that, but I am learning. I'm really learning, and I've advanced to the year 1982. But other than that, my attention has really been on small group development because, frankly, for my own self, I have particular interest in that. I feel like for myself, that's where I thrive. And I feel like that's something that is really missing in our culture, is a sense of community at a small group level where you can really just let everything down and be who you are. So, and for me, it was kind of gratifying to see on the survey that there's a lot of other people who feel the same way. So we really are, I think, focusing on trying to create some kind of framework for people to be able to utilize. I was introduced to Marcia Flagg by Mel about a year ago, and have got the opportunity to kind of jump on board with what she's done with small group development. And she's been a person who's been a senior or junior minister for 30 to 40 years of different congregations. So she has a long history of experience. And so she brings to the table that and a Sarah Circle dynamic, which we talk about it, but I don't know that I've ever experienced it like I have at Rossmore in this Center for Spiritual Cultivation that she started, because the framework of it really is Sarah Circle. I guess if you have a Quaker background or a background where it's more of an open circle, it may be more familiar to you, but it really has been a very rich experience. So we've been able to utilize that. And then plus getting some, there's lots of information out there. Joran, thank you for sending me information from Integral Church on small group development. And plus I found some other things online that we were able to utilize. But we really are still in the baby stages of trying to give people the support that they need and the resources they need to develop small groups. So I'm hoping if people feel a passion for this, if they'll join on board and help, because, you know, all hands on deck. It's really important that we do everything we can to support the development of community. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Carolyn. Joran?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, as Carolyn mentioned, I lead something called Integral Church down here in Florida, which is actually expanded over into Hungary as well. We've got a couple circles going over there in Kecskemét and in Budapest. So that's been due to the fact that I've traveled over for the Integral European Conference a few years in a row, and you know, kind of continued to plant that seed. I have a full-time job now as of this year, and that has shifted a lot of my energy and attention. Doing full-time work now as a facilitator and a consultant with large corporations, and training other facilitators to consult and do workshops for the company as well. So it's taken a lot of my time away from running my business here, which is the Meta Center, which is a meditation center and wellness space, and to the degree that I think we'll probably be selling that business the beginning of next year. And Integral Church, while I continue to focus on the Sunday circles, I'm going to, had been for a few years experimenting with Thursday circles that were more of a musical focus, and I'm going to put those down just because they just weren't gaining traction. In addition to the circles, we do a monthly men's group. We do an annual potluck for it's the Feast of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. We do a gratitude potluck in November, which we just had. And we do 4 times a year on the solstice and the equinox. We do something called the Cosmic Dance, which is very like a cosmic mass, but instead of the kind of DJ techno thing, we do acoustic hand drums, and it's more of an ecstatic dance. We do the grieving ritual, and we do the drumming and ecstatic dance. We do that 4 times a year here at a rather large yoga studio. So we do that indoors. Most everything else we do is outdoors. And on that note, this year I was able to connect with Victoria Lures and the Wild Church Network, and I attended their first annual gathering in Wisconsin. Joined up with them and learned a lot about what they're doing with the outdoor rewilding church movement. And that's been great. And I've had a couple calls with Sid and Victoria to see where creation spirituality and wild church overlaps, and yeah, as you can imagine, overlap in many places. In addition to that, I'm working on a new book, a 3rd book of mine. It's a kind of an anthology of the essays I've been writing for Progressing Spirit, which is the website run by progressivechristianity.org. So I'm working on that, and in my spare time. And
you've helped us with our mission statement.
Yeah, I've been
about that.
Yes, I've been editing some language that we've been brainstorming on to talk about a little bit like who we are and what we do and what we believe, and language that can be styled then into language on the website or for a bullet point or a postcard or a flyer, you know, talking points, things like that. And that's been really great. You know, we also have done some visioning work as a board this year to figure out kind of, based on the data we receive from the surveys and based on anecdotal data, what do we know about, you know, what is that job to be done in the world and in our communities that is served by creation spirituality. So I look forward to continuing that work at the upcoming retreat, because that facilitation work, that visioning and strategic work is what I do with organizations and corporations really every day. And especially with Deirdre's background in OD and organizational development, I really look forward to picking her brain and seeing what ideas she has for the upcoming retreat as well. That's it for me. And I'm just living in paradise down here in Florida. Can't wait to see everybody.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Just to thank you, Jordan. Just to check in real quickly, it's 10 till. Are you all okay if we go till 10 after? Is that gonna cramp anyone's style?
I think
You good? Okay, good. I just want to make sure we don't. We want to make sure we hear from everyone, and we've got some reports going, and we also want to hear from folks that aren't on the board what you would love to see in the future. So let's move on to Dave. Dave, what have you got to tell us?
Well, you know, I want to let people know the efficiency and the effectiveness and productivity we have with our finances. We are basically right now a communication source and a central hub to have the retreats, to have the meetings that go on with the ministers, and the use of constant contact, and these type of sources, the Zoom we have now. And so we're very efficient in this. We spend about $500 a month, and then we're a 501(c)(3), that costs us like $1,400 and a couple other emergencies. So we spend about $675 a month. And all these programs come out of this and are used by that. And thanks to everyone, because there's so much volunteer time put into this. That saves us cost and energy to do that. The newsletter and all these things are products of this small amount. But our two issues are we don't have a strong source of income. Membership will bring in maybe half of what we need to go on a year. And then we've had a couple donations, large donations, that have sustained us. And otherwise, if we charge for some of the programs, but even those are basically break even. So next year we need to be focusing on doing some form of fundraising to bring those two numbers in balance. And that's what you'll hear from us throughout the year of trying to do that, but know your money's going to good use. And it will produce things. And if we can raise it, we need to raise now the seed money for the next conference. We need to have that so we can make the deposits on the various facilities. So that's kind of our financial report. We have money in the bank to pay the monthly bills for another year, probably, but that's dipping into some of the reserves and everything we've had. But we still need to build the resources.
Great. Thank you, Dave. And Dave and Seth do such a good job of keeping us aligned and appraised of the current state. So we really appreciate it. Two quick things just that didn't get mentioned. We are looking at having another gathering, possibly about a year from now, maybe late 20 or early 21 in the winter. We're looking at the possibility of a center in San Antonio, Texas, where Matt recently held a cosmic mass. It was well received, and a community there called called the Celebration Circle sponsored that, which is a creation-centered community. And so we're looking at the possibility of doing something there, and wanting it to be very interfaith. So not just Christian-centered, but looking at making sure there are Buddhist, Wiccan, First Nation elements, so that it really is not like you all are the invited guests, but more we're all in this together. But possibly looking at a focus or a theme being the intersectionality between climate change and creation spirituality, and how our spirituality addresses the current crisis of climate change. So those are sort of what we're looking at. I wanted you all to know about that. Keep in mind for the future. We'll let you know as soon as we know a date and a place for sure. One other thing that was alluded to that we didn't really talk about is that we finally are a 501c3. That may help in your donations. With the new tax code, it may not make that much of a difference, but it is
anyway.
But it's good, and part of the motivation for that is that FICS needed to be a seminary. It needed to be related to a denomination, quote unquote, and so we were that resource. While we don't think of ourselves as a denomination, we now have that distinction, at least from the IRS's, from the Fed perspective. So that was a good move that finally occurred, and we're glad to have that. So I think I'll stop. I want Gail and John and Penny to have a chance to share.
And Carol.
And Carol too?
No.
Carol's not here?
Carol's here. We're glad to see her. But we really have 5 more minutes
Carol.
with John. That's all we have.
Okay, let's go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
You all chime in. We want to hear from you.
Okay. So this program that we had, that was first the elder interviews, came out of the 2016 intergenerational gathering. When I looked at all of us, and I was 67 then, I was surprised to see how old everybody was, and I thought, oh my goodness, we're all so old. How are we going to do anything? And then I went to John Robinson's classes and heard Matthew's speech, and instead of seeing us as like the older generation as emptiness, I saw it as a gold mine, because there is so much wisdom that has been garnered over so many years, and energy, and particularly with our group, dedication and time, that we can make a difference that other people are overengaged and can't do. So that's one of the reasons we started our project, was to raise the consciousness of what it means to be mystic and aging at the same time. So we had, this fall, we launched our shared project, Creation in Crisis, an online conversation about climate change with our CS elders and guests. We are very pleased with our first 2 offerings and are excited about what mature mystics might offer to global warming and the environmental crisis. And we're serious about that. We don't mean just kind of talking about it and thinking about it. We want to know what we can do that will actually make a difference. We have identified a couple of things that this vision needs to reach its full potential. Penny, you're back. You're on mute. Can somebody unmute Penny?
There. As you know, we 3 offered the Elder Interview series showcasing the lives of our creation spirituality elders. Our goal was to honor the lives and achievements of the CS elders and highlight the tasks and gifts of conscious aging. It was a rich and affirming series that we hope many of you had a chance to enjoy. More recently, we found ourselves increasingly alarmed by the growing evidence for global warming and decided to move our attention to the peril of our Earth's climate crisis. We created a new format, Creation Spirituality Communities presents Creation in Crisis, and now host a monthly series presenting timely information, interviews with experts, and community discussion that helps us to align our spirituality with our responses. This month, we had a fascinating and important interview with Matthew Fox. This evening, we're so grateful for this opportunity to speak to you a bit about a couple of needs we've identified to assist our evolving vision and our request for board assistance. John?
John,
Oh, am I up?
You're up.
I'm John Robinson. I live on Fox Island, Washington, in the South Puget Sound, and I'm a husband, father of 4, and grandfather of 7. So I've got my hands full with those little ones. I just love them so much. I can't hardly stand it. Yeah, I was very excited about our elder interview series, and we interviewed many of you people up here on the board. We were going to get to more of you, but we got taken over by this horrifying vision of what was happening to our earth, and so we just felt like we just had to shift gears. And I've been writing a lot about conscious aging, and it just suddenly came to me that I needed to write about mystical activism, and so that's what I've done. I have a book coming out in February that Matt wrote a foreword to, and so this is what we're trying to do in this seminar. And one of the things that we've struggled with, because we are not highly technologically advanced human beings, is that when we work with Zoom, it's hard to juggle, interviews, asking questions, changing, muting and unmuting people, and recording. And anyway, we would really love to have some help with that. If you know somebody that's really good at this kind of thing, that has a little bit of, all you have to do is spend an hour and a half with us once a month to help us do this, or funds to perhaps to help us pay somebody to do that. That would be very important. And as Gail also suggested, that it would be very helpful to have a Facebook page, a Care for Creation Facebook page that would with a link to a kind of a blog, so we can not only deposit and contribute papers and articles that we find on the internet, but we can also engage everybody to participate and ask questions and share their concerns. We are in a fast-moving climate apocalypse, and we have to act on it. And so this is our way of saying, who could do it better than creation spirituality? Because as Matt pointed out, what's missing in so many of our ecological activities is a profound sense that creation is itself sacred, and that when we relax and cease our separation from creation and bathe ourselves in the being of our being that's all around us, suddenly we have a love and adoration that Sid was talking about that motivates us to do whatever it is we have to do to take care of our babies and our babies' babies. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're coming from.
Wow, this is exciting.
Yeah, we are very excited. We have a Crystal Parks coming up with our next interview, and she's written a wonderful book on mystical activism as well. That Matt's very positive about. So I think we're going to do some fun things. I hope you all come and join us.
Yeah. Are they archived on the CSC website, John? The last interview that you did with Matt.
Speak closer, Roxanne.
Is it on the CSC website archive, the Creation and Crisis series, as well as the Elder interview? I know the Elder interviews are. Is the Creation and Crisis going to be on the website?
That's what we're working on here. That's kind of what we're here for.
That's what we need help for. That question, to say yes to that question is a lot of time and technical ability to be able to say yes to that.
What do we need to do on our end, Seth, to make that happen?
So we will put up the one with Matt soon. I tried to do it a while ago, but when it auto-recorded, so it auto-recorded them just sort of faffing about and getting together and all that sort of thing, and I couldn't figure out where it started. So Gail actually edited it, and now it's ready to go. So either tonight or tomorrow, I hope to get that up there. I would also, so 2 things, you guys. We have a blog space on our website, on the new website. So if you write stuff, I can get, there's actually a way that you could write it and email it, and it will recognize that it's from John Robinson and post it, or from Gail, or from Penny, like that.
He said that to you?
No, I need to go in and set you up.
Okay.
And then I can tell you what the email address you would use that would send stuff to it.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome.
And then I would also encourage you to use our webpage, particularly the group. So there's a Creation Spirituality Communities group that is getting some action. There's a couple of guys that just got in there recently. Both of them are ministers of varying types that are posting a lot of things. So there is a bit of activity, but I would really encourage you guys to go in there and post stuff in there and get conversation going in there, because there's a couple hundred people that are part of that group, and I think the more centralized we can get them, the more we can get people in a conversation and talking and stuff. So one thing I can just tell you, it's really helpful if you like find an article or a video or something that you want to share with people, to write an intro about it, like why people should watch it or read it or whatever. And if you want to get a conversation going, to ask a question, and then people will say stuff in the comments.
Okay.
So
thank you.
Awesome.
It's the Creation Spirituality group that has like a bumblebee as its Twitter page.
The bumblebee one. Okay.
The bumblebee.
Yeah, so that's the one.
There are, by the way, people doing incredible things. Carol Kilby here being one of them, and doing her work with Deep Time, and another one that Sylvia Dis, which you'll hear about as it comes out in the from A Constant Contact, then our next invitation when she's coming on. But people are actually doing phenomenal things, fueled by their creation spirituality. And if that kind of inspired me to start something myself. So you see, that's what happens. You hear one person doing it and say, well, I could do that.
And Carol, we'd love for you to when you're doing what you're doing, put it on that website, or at least put a link to it or something, so we can, so those that are already plugged into that can be a part of that. Go ahead, Penny. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, well, my ears really perked up when you talked about the San Antonio theme.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering how that might integrate and
yes,
bring forth new energies too.
I love the connection. I didn't really know about what you were doing. And so when we were talking about all this, we weren't making that connection, but there's obviously a connection. So there will be, believe me. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but we'll make sure.
Great.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So
Carol Kilby. Hi, Carol Kilby.
Hello, Carol. We've only got a few minutes left, but I want to make sure, are there those of you that haven't had a chance to share, are there things that have been on your heart or mind that are driving your passion, that keep you plugged into this, that perhaps you would like to share with us, to pursue, to explore, to walk with you? What's going on? Anyone want to chime in?
I'll unmute. Something that we've always done from the first time I joined the board, how many years ago, is sort of say we're made up of old white people as if it's something bad. And I, and when you said that, again, in relation to the survey, Seth, I heard it as, oh, well, we're just all old white people. We need to get other people on the board. Maybe we need to turn that around and say, we have something that appeals to old white people. And now you've got younger white people joining the board as well. And say, how do we bring more white people in rather than discounting white people and trying to get people of color when they have their own communities? They'll find us if they need to, but maybe you need to focus more on white people.
Well, the issue isn't so much the white thing as the age thing. The average age of our membership is like 70.
Right.
And that is not sustainable. That's the issue with it.
Sure.
They're going to die.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
There's a lot out there. and we could get some more of them and get their money alive. I have a question for Carol. She and I had a little discussion this morning. And for years, I had thought about us going international and having a gathering at the Gaia Center, which doesn't exist anymore. But there's a lot of creation spirituality people around Toronto and Hamilton and that whole area. And why shouldn't we look at having something in Canada someday?
Well, it's cheaper now. Right now, guys, come on up.
And Tom, I hear what you're saying, and I think that's something the board's been starting to wrestle with.
Wait, Carol, go ahead. I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
Did. Go ahead, Carol.
I'm so excited that somebody else raised this. What I'm aware of is that, yes, there are a number of initiatives in the Central Ontario area out at the, Susan Booth will tell you, at the Jesuit Center, the Loyola Center in Guelph, which is just a little west of the GTA, by which I mean Greater Toronto Area. And there's some wonderful initiatives coming through something called Faith in the Common Good, and some more initiatives with some significant Anglican and Roman Catholic bishops working with the Pope's encyclical. So without the umbrella of creation spirituality, there is a commonality. There is the passion and the prophetic work that makes us one. So, you know, if we were to offer something and make some invitations for the purposes of expanding the love and the prophetic work, without, you know, going off to seek memberships, something will happen. Mm-hmm. So if this is our work as who we are, and I've always felt that I would love to celebrate that creation spirituality somehow is called who it's called, and that it's a nugget in time, and that's all I need it to be. But that I found my place and my tribe and so on, I'm so grateful. And I believe that somehow we will contribute to the evolutionary development of consciousness as who we are. And so, yes, we could explore who could be co-creators of something in Canada that initiated by creation spirituality communities.
Exciting. Very exciting.
Carol, did you tell us about your deep time rituals?
Oh, thanks, Gail, because somebody that you might invite onto your series around creation and the prophetic work around that would be Jennifer Morgan. And Jennifer Morgan, I met her through, how did I meet her? She's the author of 3 significant children's books, Born with a Bang, Mammal to Morphing from Mammals to Human something, 3 wonderful books, Jennifer Morgan. And I had her here as a storyteller one Earth Day. And then she went on to create this website called Deep Time Network. And she has all of the teachers that we had at Creation Spirit at UCS as founding members of this Deep Time Network. So Brian is there, and Larry's there, and Miriam McGillis is there, and Mary Evelyn Tucker is there, and so on. And the people that are just joining are people that we've either read or that we've been privileged to learn from. And so she's been building this website over a few years, and now she's actually offering courses. And she has a number of what she calls lineages that come, that the network serves. And so as we did some work together last week, and maybe some more in the future, I was telling her that another lineage is the Creation Spirituality community. And she was very excited by this. And so I said to her on our webinar that we did together, I said, check and see who's there. Who's never been there before? Are they from the Creation Spirituality community? And so she has opened, she's learning about that. And we're learning about her. And so I think that's a very significant ally going forward.
That's exciting. That reminds me, one of the things we've talked about in the board is strengthening connections with like-minded groups. Green
Yes.
Spirit in Europe, Wild Church. This is another one. I mean,
Yes.
Why reinvent the wheel? Instead, let's stack the wheels up and drive down the same road, you know?
I've always said the last thing the world needs is another book, and I'm just writing one. And I've always said the last thing the world needs is another denomination, and here I am in one.
That's great. Well, I think at least we're out of the time that we said. Would anyone else like to chime in before we conclude the meeting?
Sid,
yes, Doran.
Thank you. I need to respond to the whiteness thing. And Tom, I know what you're saying as far as from a marketing perspective. You know, knowing our unique value proposition and spending the limited amount of resources we have in the right direction. I totally get that. But also having one foot in the progressive Christianity and progressing spirit world, I know that they are gathering a lot of really, really great voices on that website that are not only women, but also people of color. And I understand that there is what's known in America as that Black church experience, but there are a lot of Black people who are not only progressive Christians, but also that are straddling worlds of their own, whether it be the Christian side of themselves and also the traditional Afro-Cuban, Yoruba, you know, whatever that is, side of themselves, and they don't know where they fit. And I think it's worth holding up a beacon and gathering those voices in one place and letting them know that this is a home for them, and not only people of color, but if we're going to practice what we preach as far as building that bridge to that kind of American lie based on the First Peoples and the indigenous peoples and what's happened, I think we need to solve that with representation as well and intersectionality. And I believe personally the future of religion is something that looks like a progressive holarchical shamanism, and you don't get there by just simply adding more white people to the mix. So I just had to say that because I think that, you know, we're building something bigger that is beyond the unique value proposition of what we have to offer.
I say that nonetheless, being white and Christian means we're part of the civilization that did all this damage, and therefore needs to be the people who make the invitation to open it up and say, oh boy, we got that wrong. Come and join us. And so I think that we can, offer the invitation and consider that as part of our work out of what we've been.
That's helpful.
I had a question for Seth about the website.
Roxanne, talk to the middle of your screen.
Sorry, Roxanne, we can't hear you again.
I had a question for Seth about the website in terms of where to find the groups. Is it under the main, is it called groups? Where, like the Bumblebee group you were talking about?
No, that's Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, the Creation Spirituality group, Creation Spirituality Community group on Facebook. There's two, if you type that. The names are slightly different, but one of them, the picture that you'll see is a bumblebee. So that's why I said that.
Great. Well, this has been just incredible. You all are amazing, and I get to see the amazing work of the board, and it's wonderful to hear Roxanne and Gail today, because I've been so blessed by what they brought to the board. But it's been great to hear from all of you and your incredible creative ideas. And I just hope that whatever we do in the future, we're going to go deeper and wider and find a way to do this. You know, one of the things that I was thinking about as you were speaking, Jorn, maybe I can conclude on this. I'll put in a plug for my favorite rock lyricist. If you want to read an interesting indictment on the theology of manifest destiny, which is what Thanksgiving typically is all about, read Don Henley's and Glenn Frey's song, The Last Resort, from the Eagles days. And what it reminds you of is that it's not all about us. It's about all of us. And when we get stuck on our own needs versus the whole, that's where we get into trouble. And one of the things I love about Creation Spirituality is that it takes seriously Meister Eckhart's word, his idea that everything is a word of God. Everything. Everyone, everything. And that's what we are committed to. And I think as long as we stay on that track, there's plenty to be in adoration about. So, anyway, thank you all so much. And hope you all have I don't know, is there an equivalent in Canada to Thanksgiving this weekend, or?
They had it.
Yeah, I know you already had it. So okay. So for all of us, let's have a great Thanksgiving, okay? Whatever that is. Blessings.
Blessings.
All right. Thank you, and take care. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sid,
Yes, Seth.
while
Sure.
you're still there,
I'm here.
I should let you know